She may have initially been known for her relationship with Serge Gainsbourg, but English-born Jane Birkin went on to become a beloved actress, singer, style icon and even a social activist. Since her death on Sunday, tributes have been flowing in, with fans gathering outside of Maison Gainsbourg here in Paris to say their goodbyes. Joining me here in the studio from our culture desk is Marjorie Hache. Marjorie, Jane Birkin has had an enormous impact on the French music scene. Why was that the case?
Well, I think it's first and foremost, she was a foreigner in France. She was British. It was very exotic having this English accent, especially at a time when there was a cultural revolution with the UK dominating the charts, thanks to the Beatles and so many other bands. There was a British invasion, so to speak. There were also huge cinema stars like Michael Caine. She was part of this new generation of French actors, male or female, because there were also other female actresses like Charlotte Rampling and later on, and a few decades on, Kristen Scott Thomas, who were able to bond with the French people in a way because they moved here, were married to Frenchmen, were also in love with the culture, embraced it without forgetting that they were ultimately English and not pretending to be anything else but themselves. And I think that was a big part in the charm that someone like Jane Birkin had for the French people.
But, as you say there, this English girl went on to become a massive French icon, but musically she was much admired by some incredibly unlikely people in recent years.
No, absolutely. She was, not only was she one of Serge Gainsbourg's muses, he was encouraging her to sing. She didn't like her voice initially. She was like, not going to sing. And he really pushed for her to sing. And she really used his work and his words and music up until his death. And so after his death as a woman over 40, she suddenly gained this confidence. She started working with young French artists such as Musek and Etienne Dao, who is huge here, but also people like Brian Molko from Placebo and also Brian Ferry. She also worked with Franz Ferdinand on a cover of Gainsbourg, and initially a lot of it was over either their work or their compositions or Gainsbourg tributes. And I think this all contributed to also building her up as an artist. And in her later years, she started writing her own music and drawing from her own personal experience. So it's an interesting sort of relationship where she gives and is a muse and an inspiration, but also is inspired by the people she works with and gains confidence from them.
And finally, she was a gender rights activist ahead of her time, wasn't she?
Yeah, I don't know if it was consciously or not consciously, also kind of a way of tickling, because also sexual liberation was a big part with from Je t'aime moi non plus, but also gender-bending roles. Je t'aime moi non plus was then penned as a film by Serge Gainsbourg that came out in the 70s, and in which she plays a garçon, or really a little boy, and who falls in love and has a relationship with a closeted gay man. So that's kind of ahead of its time, because, in those days in France, being gay was probably seen as an illness and described like that. And then later on, she works with Agnès Varda, and I think she was great because as a woman director, she really saw her for more than just a muse. She was a muse to her as well, of course, but also drew into her personality and had her play, again, gender-bending roles. So.
Marjorie Hache, thank you so much. And we're going to leave you with some of Jane Birkin's famous music.
Oui, je t'aime. Moi non plus. Oh, mon amour. Comme la vague irrésolue.